Okay, so this is the part 3 of our Preboard 1 rationalization. So as a continuation, let me share my screen. Now for the next item, learning disabilities involve difficulties in specific cognitive processes like perception, language, memory, and metacognition are not due to other disabilities like emotional and learning disabilities. Examples of learning difficulties are A. ADHD and autism. B. Mental retardation and dyslexia. C. Dyslexia and dyscalculia. D. Speech and visual disorder. Actually, if we are going to look at the first option on ADHD and autism, these are also a form of disorders. No, actually, the D in ADHD stands for the word disorder. Now, therefore, this isn't just a difficulty no encountered by learners. How about mental retardation and dyslexia? No, actually, okay ang dyslexia. No, the difficulties in dealing with language, letters, words. However, mental retardation is a little bit heavier no, than just identifying difficulties encountered in learning. No, mas heavy pa ning mental retardation. Di lang siya basta-basta nga kuan nga difficulty in learning. Option number 3, dyslexia and dyscalculia. No, dyslexia, difficulty in dealing with language and dealing with words, letters. Ang dyscalculia po kay difficulty po ni siya in dealing with numbers, nor in anything related with math, computations, calculations. Option number 4, speech and visual disorder. And again, we're not looking for disorders. No, we're only asked to look for certain difficulties among the choices. That's why the correct answer for this item is dyslexia and dyscalculia. Again, we have to be mindful of the questions per item. No, let's comprehend the things nga gipangayo lang sa pangutana. Next, who is the foremost believer that intelligence is a function of the number of successful connection learned? Now, is it Watson sa iyahang together with Pavlov's conditioning? No, or Vygotsky in his socio-cultural involvement in the teaching and learning process? Or Kohlberg? Now, for the answer for this item is Thorndike. No, on his intelligence, the connection of different functions of intelligence. So it's going to be Thorndike is the correct answer. Next item, the International Commission on Education for the 21st Century chaired by Jacques Delors advocates four pillars of education, namely learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. Which of these are adopted today? Now, should we exclude one of the four pillars, no, being kuan adapted today? Nabay isa sa ato ang four pillars nga wala nato gi put into practice today. No, wala nato gi include sa teaching and learning process in any educational system around the world, no? Ang kuan lang ba ang learning to know lang ba o ang learning to live together ang gi-adapt nato today? Or is it just learning to know and learning to do? Well, all of these four pillars are being practiced or being adapted by all of the educational system under UNESCO, no, today. So therefore, the correct answer for this item is option number 4. No, we include all of the four pillars of education. in our teaching practices. Next, an education for globalization should nurture the higher order cognitive skill and interpersonal skill in order to develop what? ZA, students' awareness of the world in which they live. Now take note, we are pertaining to higher order cognitive skill and interpersonal. So which among the choices man highlights higher order thinking skill or cognitive skill? Option number three, ability to master one's national origin. Now, if we are able to master our origin as Filipino people, no, will we be able to know how to critically think, know how to make use of the higher order cognitive skills? And what does it take, for us to master our national origin? No, it only takes for us to know about our history. No, we just have to read our history books, and it does not really dig deeper than that. And just for as long as we understand whatever it is that we're reading, we'll be able to know everything about our origin. But in terms of higher order cognitive skill and interpersonal skill, now we have to make sure that in our education, we'll be able to have our students to develop their ability to think creatively and ethically. No? Kay higher order cognitive skill man. And take note in our Bloom's taxonomy kaning mga creativity, synthesis, these are in the higher levels of the taxonomy. And those are the levels that should be targeted for the for an education that targets that focuses on globalization. No, so the correct answer for this is the ability to think creatively and ethically. Next item. The teacher is the first audiovisual aid in the classroom. How can she act as one? Now take note how we have the term audiovisual. Now therefore it involves his or her ability to communicate, not to deliver knowledge. At the same time, he or she should be a role model considering we're also making use of the term visual, no? He, she should be or he should be the kind of teacher that would appeal to the students' sense of sight in a good way. No, dili siya laway lang tawon because audiovisual aid man siya in the classroom. First option, sing before the class starts to keep them awake. It's also a good thing, no, to have an icebreaker in class. However, if we are just going to make use of the term sing, we are not I were only targeting one area, which is only the audio, or not anymore with the visual, being the visual aid in the classroom. No, so option number one is not what we're looking for. Next is use TV and radio for everyday lessons. If kuan man, 'di ba? The teacher is the first audio-visual aid in the classroom. Then what will happen if we only make use of the TV and the radio for everyday lessons? Aha man nato ibutang ang teacher, no? If magsige lang tagpilanta og TV, sige lang papamina og radyo sa ato ang mga estudyante. Yes, we were able to target the term audio-visual aid, but we forgot about the fact that it should be the teacher. No, dili ang TV o ang radio. No, if kuan man galing, if we only make use of TV and radio for our everyday lessons, then maybe we should fire all of our teachers na lang, no, and let's just let our students watch televisions and radio. So that's not the correct answer. Also, next, I for the fourth option, we wear multicolored dress to catch their attention. Multicolor, grabe ka colorful ni teacher. Doon mo nag-rainbow lang tawon si teacher. It depends upon the student's interest. No, Perhaps na yung mga estudyante nga ganahan malingaw kung teacher maglanta ingon ana kay murag clown. However, again, it does not target both both focus aning audiovisual aid in the classroom. No, naka-focus lang siya sa visual, no, sa visual sense of the students, dili both. Mao nang the correct answer for this item is option number 3 or letter C. Have a pleasing physical appearance and modulated voice. Dapat pleasing po ka, formal po ka lang tawon sa mga bata nga you are worthy of their respect, no, of their attention because of how you look. Dili ka the kind of teacher nga nagkarong ang buhok, di mamugong, no, naapay ka ng laway nga nauga, skillet sa pa. No, then, or di ba ka, magklase nga perting hinaya sa tingog, nga bisag ang nasa tubangan nga mga estudyante, maglugos og dungog sa imong tingog. No, so aha naman nato ibutang ang teacher being the first audiovisual aid in the classroom. If inana ang case, 'di ba? So mo na ang answer for this is option number 3, have a pleasing physical appearance and modulated voice. Next item, the National College Entrance Examination, which was then given by the DepEd for all fourth year graduating students, is a norm reference test. The purpose is to determine one, A, the scope or content coverage to be tested. No, is that the is that how we define the norm reference test? Or is it number 3, option number letter C? The purpose is to determine who will construct the examination items. Hmm. No, we make we let our fourth year graduating students take the National College Entrance Examination din. Sila pala itong pakonstrakon sa examination items. So kani siya nga option is another obvious distractor. So this should be eliminated. It does not make sense at all. For the number 4, the performance of a student relative to a targeted skill. Daghan majority sa inyo gi-answer ang letter D. Kaning gimin actually sa letter D or the performance of a student relative to a targeted skill, this actually refers to criterion reference test wherein na siya specific nga standard ba or target score nga kailangan nilang i-reach, no, ilahang targeton nga maabot nila or malapas nila, malapsan. No, whereas when you say norm reference test, it is the performance, ang purpose ani is for the performance of a student with reference to a large group. Ano, all of the performances of the takers will be compared with each other. They will identify kinsa ang highest, no, and from the highest mo na nila ilahang basihan for the other students nga na possibility to pass the test. No, mana siya ang sa norm reference test, the performance of a student with reference to a large group. Hmm. How well a particular student performed in reference or in relation to to the rest of the takers. No, kumbaga naka base entirely ang result whether makapastar siya o dili sa performances also sa other group ay sa other takers. Whereas ang sa criterion reference test na siya target skill jud or target criterion nga dapat nilang maabot, ma-reach or malapuan. So that is why it's letter B or option number 2. Because again, ang letter D, kung ano siya, criterion reference test, di na siya norm. Next, a criterion reference test is designed to determine whether or not a student has what? No, A, performed well in a wide content coverage. Now, if talk about reference test, content coverage of that particular text, wala siya actually nagmatter. No? Or is it option number 2? performed higher than the other members of a group. Performed higher than the other members of a group. Kani siya nga statement falls down to the norm reference test again. If ang performance is isa ka estudyante imong i-compare sa other members of a group, mo na siyang sa norm reference test. One example of that is kanang mag-top 10, mag-ranking bitaw ka sa mga best performers. Kinsa ang highest, kinsa ang lowest, kinsa ang wala siyang sa norm reference test. However, we are tasked to identify something that's related to criterion reference. So like I said, ang criterion na siya'y specific skill or specific target skill na kailangan lang i-reach sa ilahang performance. Okay? So that's why the answer is option number 4. Murag na nabaliktad ninyo ang idea of a norm reference test ug ang criterion reference test. Inyo lang i-take note na ang criterion, from the word criterion, no, specific skill or kanang standard nga kailangang i-reach ninyo no sa inyong performance. Mo gali nang sa rubric in your performance activities or tasks. Natay criteria na upat no na upat lima ka criteria. Ah, so kumbaga ang ilang output pod naka-based entirely sa criteria nga giset ana. No, sa ato pa, in making their outputs or their performances, they should consider each criterion sa rubric. Di ba? Para makakuha sila og dako nga score. So that's also what is meant by the criterion reference test na ay specific skill or standard that needs to be reached. No, say for example po sa exam, a total of 100 item examination, if we make use of a criterion reference test, it should be fixed nga ang estudyante who will get 75 and above score will pass the exam. Kay 75% man ang criterion or ang set nga target ana para makapasar siya. Whereas if we make use of a norm reference test, basihan nato sa highest, no? Basihan nato sa highest ang number of students nga makapasar pa. No, kay i-relate man nato ato ang performances sa sa atong nga particular estudyante nga nakakuha og highest score. Okay? So mao nang it's letter D or number 4 ang answer ani nga item. Next, how will you interpret a student's 80% percentile score? The student scored what? Is it number 1 higher than 80% of the members of the group? Now, if mayon kita percentile score, no, we are we are looking at the our performance of a particular student relative to the to the other to the performance of the other group members also. No, if diri nga case, unsa na to daw pag interpret ang estudyante nga naay 80% percentile score. Sa ato pa, ang pasabot ana is that kanang estudyante na siya iyang score is higher than 80% of the members of the group. No mo na siya ang pasabot sa percentile score. Hmm. Sa ato pa mga 20% lang sa 20% lang sa entire group or sa ilahang entire klase ang nakakuha og the same or better score than him, no, or than her. The other 80% of the entire population of the class mas gamay og kuha sa iyaha. Sabot? Say for example, if it's only 70% percentile score, put pasabot ana ang 30%, no? Ang 30% ana sa entire population of the class nakakuha og the same score sa iyaha or greater than sa score niya, no? So that's how you make that's how you interpret a percentile score. That's why the answer for this item is letter A, number one. Next, in planning a lesson after establishing your objectives in the cognitive domain, the next thing to do is A. Prepare a corresponding pre-test and post-test. B. Find out what the students already know by giving a pre-test. Letter C. Get ready with all the materials that will be needed. Or last option, find out which teaching methodology will be used. So what's the next thing that we should be considering? No, which that we should consider after we establish our objectives in the cognitive domain. Mm. Is it to prepare a corresponding pre-test and post-test after establishing our objectives? Actually, pre-test is um considerable. I mean is also a good answer. However, ang post-test after we after we establish a cognitive domain, no, so it should only be about finding out what the students already know. No, kay magaling nang we also have an activity before we officially start our classes, especially in the primary grade levels wherein magbuhat og KWL chart. Now we identify first the prior knowledge or the schema of our students and um, identify also whether if na sila yung mga na-develop ko misconception at ang mga prior knowledge, and then if then we're going to correct them with our lesson of the day, no, or if wala po, then we're going to dig deeper than what they already know. Diba? So that's why the answer for this item is to find out what the students already know, no, after we establish the cognitive domain. Kay para clear sa ato where specifically of sa lesson ta mag-start. Ano kay basig it also touched down the feasibility factor also of our lessons para mas ma-utilize nato ato ang remaining time kay basig most of the allotted time for this subject area kay mas spent nato siya entirely on teaching concepts nga di ay to nahibalaan na kabalo na atong mga estudyante. No, so murag mahimo lang redundant sa ilaha. So mas ma-utilize nato ato ang remaining time if kabalo na ta unsa ang mga butang nga nahibalaan na nila daan ug unsa ang mga butang nga need pa nga i-emphasize sa ilaha og klaro. Next is getting ready with all the materials that will be needed. Is this the next thing that you should be doing after you establish an objective in the cognitive domain? No, to ready the materials that will be needed? Hmm? Take note ha, it's only in the cognitive domain. We didn't yet mention the psychomotor domain and the affective domain. So sa atua pa, right after we establish an objective in the cognitive domain, prepare na diretso sa materials. No? Dahil i-establish na po nato og kanang objectives for the psychomotor domain, mag-set na po tag another materials. No, dili na nato pwede usa. Now, the first thing that we should be doing is to identify the prior knowledge of our students regarding the lesson that we know, no, that we are about to introduce to them. Next item, a teacher made tests given at the end of a lesson to find out if the objective has been attained can be classified as what? Hmm. Is it a criterion reference assessment, a norm referenced assessment, placement test, curricular test? The placement test, no, is actually another purpose of an assessment, no, to identify a certain learner or student kung asa siya nga particular group of learners mas nabagay, no? Ang curricular test po, I don't know how did we came up with the curricular test, but no, it has nothing to do with attaining a specific objective. No, if unsa galitong if we are setting a standard, no, the necessary standard nga kailangan i-achieve, no, that the performance of one student isn't being compared with the other members, no, or with the other students. Kaya naman siya specific na standard or objective nga nakaset. Therefore, this is a criterion reference. No, making sure nga the assessment test or the say tawag na the result of the test nga atong ihatag was able to achieve or attain the objective set for it. No, kanang objective serves as the standard, no, the standards nga atong basihan if if na-attain ba sa mga estudyante, no, based on their performance sa assessment test. So that's why the answer is criterion reference. Next, a teacher set 95% accuracy in a test on predicting the kind of weather given five different atmospheric conditions. Nag-set daw siya og 95% accuracy. A student who obtains a score of 85% can be interpreted as, wala na ako nabutang ang score. Ay, correct answer. A. She did not meet the set criterion by 10%. Take note ha, nag-set na ang teacher of 95% accuracy. Kumbaga, ang expected niya nga scores sa mga bata ani nga kind of activity should be 95% in and above. However, ang estudyante nga gihatag diri as an example only got 85%. So how should we unsa na to ni siya pag-interpret if wala siya nakaabot sa giset sa teacher? No, 85% naman siya. Is it she did not meet the set criterion by 10%? She is higher than 85% of the group. Take note nga, majority sa inyo answered option number 2. She is higher than 85% of the group. If, again, if ang performance of the student, we compare it to a certain portion of the entire population of the class, we are talking about the percentile score, no, of the student. And di anhiman kay na may giset nga 95% accuracy or standard, no? So, therefore, letter B is not correct unless ang nasa question is 85% percentile score. No? So, mali ang letter B. Number 3, letter C, she obtained an 85% percentile score. Option B and C actually are the same. No? The same ra sila. An 85 percentile score, iyang interpretation ana is kaning higher than 85% of the group. No, gibali-bali ra ang options. Number 3 ay option number 4. She is 10% short of the set percentile score. The set percentile score di ay no ang is it the percentile score ang gimin sa teacher ani when she said nga 95% accuracy? Because again, if it's a percentile score, dapat ang score nimo sa atua pa is greater than the 95% population of the whole class. Nya dili man na siya mao ang accuracy nga gimin sa teacher di anhi. Kaning nag-set ang teacher og 95% accuracy. This actually refers to the percentage or the standard nga kailangan ma-reach sa tanang estudyante para makapasar. No, and since 85% naman ang na-obtain sa isa ka estudyante, therefore, we should be interpreting this as ang estudyante did not meet the set criterion by 10%. No, kay, again, 95% ang target and iyahang na-obtain kay 85% lang. So, pila man ka percent ang kulang? 10%. So, that is why the correct answer is letter A. Now, do not be confused with percentile score. and setting a standard, no? A set of accuracy. Kaya again, percentile, it refers to the rate of a particular student's performance relative to the performance of the other group, no, or the other students sa the same nga klase. So that's why the answer for this is letter A. So I won't be adding additional points sa inyo aning nga item since wala may nakakuha sa inyo eksaktong answer. So bisan pag wala ako naka-set ani og correct answer, wala ra gihapon nakakuha oh. Pew, pew, pew. Next, classify the type of test that is administered by the Professional Regulation Commission aimed at measuring the proficiency of teachers in developing a set of instructional skills or methodologies. The examination is given twice a year nationwide. Now, this pertains to the licensure examination for teachers. Unsa siyang reference test ang LET? Is it norm reference? Wala ba'y nakaset nga specific standard or rating nga kailangan apson sa tanang takers? Are we basing entirely um, kung kinsa ang makapasar based on the highest? No, because if that's the case, it should be norm reference. However, there's a a criterion, a clear standard that in order for you to pass the licensure examination for teachers administered by the Professional Regulation Commission, you have to get a rating of 75% or above. No, above 75%. So, unsa na po itong kuan, unsa na po itong klase sa reference test, if naa siya clear nga criterion or standards nga kailangang abton, therefore, it's another criterion reference test. No mo, nang the correct answer for this item is letter C. Next item. A multiple choice item consists of a stem representing the problem and the options consisting of the list of possible answers, no, such as this one. This is a multiple choice test, no, nagrepresent og problem, yung mga options, some of these options are distractors, no, and of course, nadyo isa na sa mga option nga correct. Example, during March, April, and May, which of the following seasons occurs? The options are summer, raining, dry, wet and dry. State a principle in making options for this particular test. Unsa nga principles ang ato ang gamiton in making these options, no, sa usa ka multiple choice test? Is it number one, the correct option must not stand out from the category? No, otherwise, if mag-stand out siya, then halata ra kaayo. No, halata ra kay sa ngatan nga mao ang correct answer. See, for example, in all of the options, kanang isa ra ka buok ang naay kuan naay nag-talked about advantages or positive effects. The other options puros na mga negative. No, so halata ra kay sa ngatan nga nag-stand out ng particular option nga nag-talk about positive or advantages. Next option, the wrong option must be seasons also. Number three, include only one possible answer. Hmm. What do you mean when we say one possible answer? It isn't really wala siya necessarily nag-mean nga kuan the correct answer. No, possible answer lang siya. Kay imong options should be something that's somewhat related to one another para na-challenge sa mo take bitaw. No, ihad yung ma-analyze, mag-critically think gid siya which of these choices should ang mas best nga nag-fit sa pangutana. No, kay dili dili pud puwede nga magbutang ka og kanang choices nga halata ra kay sa nga tanan nga mali or dili sakto. Thus, number 4 or the fourth option, the stem must not provide a clue. Sa nga stem, haman ani ang kuan, stem nga gimin. No, kanay sa actual question na or sa statement or baka sa situation nga gi-present before sa pangutana. No, kay basig ang tendency kay ang tubag kay naa na sa mismong pangutana. No, so unsa pa man 'tong i-expect ana sa atong mga estudyante? Mag-expect pa ba ta nga critically or creatively think pa sila in order to get or to come up with the correct answer? Dili na kay halata naman kay ang answer. So that's why the correct answer for this item is option number 1. Next, avoid negative statements in the stem of a multiple choice test, such as it is not true that Rizal died on December 30. And why is that? Tip number 1, it is open to guessing. Number 2, it is confusing. No, how did it became confusing man? Hala, daghanan din ako item nga wala na ako butang answer answer key. Anyway, apoy nakakakuha og saktong answer ani nga question oh. Is it number 3? It is only single recall. Mao na siya ang main reason nga nung kuan bawal ang negative statements in the stem of a multiple choice test. Next, it is a memory learning. Mm. So walay nakakuha og correct answer. So the answer for this is letter A. No, it is open to guessing. No, magtagna-tagna na lang dayon sila when jud namatay si Rizal. Ano, kay mura siya kuan. Yeah, pati jud ang negative statement. Bali, ang question na lang unta ani it kanang is it true that Rizal died on December 30? Dili kay it is not true. Next item, naghahanap na ako wala ko tayong answer key ani eh. Bo, a major advantage of an essay type of test is its ease in measuring the student's abilities to present a wide range of information. Hmm, isn't it more on presenting a wide range of ideas? Or number 2, suggest innovations in solving a problem. No, dili man nato ma-test our students' ability again to critically think. No, if the given essay um koan ask them to provide possible solutions to a given problem, ano, so in that way they will be able to kuan conceptualize possible solutions. No, they will be able to be creative and critically think kung unsa kaya ang much better nga solution para ani nga particular problem. And again, in identifying, in conceptualizing for any possible solutions sa given problem, kanang we also teach our students to look at it in a multiple perspective para dili lang pud isa ra ka klase sa solution ang ilang mahatag. So that's why the correct answer for this is letter B. No, suggest innovations in solving a problem. They will be able to give their ideas, no, on what are the things that they could possibly do to solve it, no, to solve the given situational problem. Next, what are the characteristics of a standardized test? Is it the high reliability index, most criterion reference, usually administered to small groups, contains the percentile score needed? No, wala rin ako na butang answer. Anyway, wala gyapon nakakuha og sakto nga answer. Ano nga item? Now, the correct answer for this is that it should usually be administered to small groups. No, no, before siya ikuan sa larger group of takers, of the examiners. Now, the same thing with the licensure examination for teachers. The kana siya nga mga test items gi-administer na siya first sa small groups of kuan, no, of people. And then ilahang i-measure ang index of discrimination, no, the reliability index from the data nga makuha nila sa mga ani nga particular small groups la nang i-identify if kani nga particular item is really worthy to be included in the licensure examination for teachers. No, if i-discard ba ni siya nga item because perhaps it's too easy or i-discard ba ka ni siya kay it's very difficult. No, so those are the things pa nga gina-undergo sa test items included in the licensure examination for teachers. Dili lang na sila magbasta-basta og buhat og ang mga questions. Then ipatake lang diretso without having to kuan to check the kuan anin niya reliabilities, discriminations per item. Maunang kailan siya i-administer first. Murag lagi. That's why the correct answer for this item is letter C. It should first be administered pa sa small groups. Then, wala nakakuha og correct answer. Next, a college administrator wanted an entrance examination that can identify future outcome or differences such as showing who will graduate from college or who will drop out. No, sa ato pa, ang gustong makita ani nga college administrator is ang performance sa usa ka estudyante relative to the other takers. No, ani nga particular entrance examination. So therefore, unsa man siya nga klase sa kuan sa validity. No, if natay comparison between one taker to the other, is it predictive validity? No, the purpose of this entrance examination ba is to predict where sila mo kuan, no, mosunod nga program in the college or makasurvive pa sila nga program sa college or dili? Or is it a construct validity, a concurrent validity? No, and again, if one of the purposes of conducting an assessment test or an examination is to compare the performance of one student to the other, now we are pertaining to norm-related validity. So that's why the correct answer for this item is norm-related validity or letter A. Next, which are attributes of a good evaluation instrument? Is it validity, reliability, sensitivity, and objectivity? Now, in your assessment of learning class before, assessment of learning 1, assessment of learning 2, we measure the item's validity, reliability, no, sensitivity, and objectivity. So that's why all of these are considered, no, as important attributes for a good evaluation. So that's why the answer is letter D. Next, a table of specifications presents the details of the following areas: the number of items, the percentage of items in each area to be tested, and A, objectives according to Bloom's taxonomy, type of instrument you will construct, scoring procedure, content validation. Sa may iko na to, ikatulo. It's actually the objectives according to Bloom's taxonomy per item. Because in every item of a kuan multiple choice test according to table of specifications, you will also be identifying which of the learning objectives ni siya gi-anchor. Kay dili man ka pwede mag-construct og multiple choice test item nga dili related sa learning objective, no? Kay again, ang purpose in constructing a student a learning objective is para mas focused ang lesson. And then in assessing the performance of your students, magamit na hinuon kag test item nga walay connection sa learning objectives, 'di ba? So, mo po na siyang in constructing a table of specifications, mo po na i-identify kung which among the learning objectives na siya naka-anchored, no, per test item. So that's why the correct answer is letter A, objectives according to Bloom's taxonomy. Next item. One of the characteristics of a good test is content validity. What is the first thing to be done before test construction? Unsay buhaton day before ta mag-test magbuhat og kuan test item? Is it number one, find out if the items are constructed well? May nag-answer og duha. No, if we analyze carefully the question ha, the first thing to be done before test construction, then imo na hinuong imo na hinung i-identify if the items ba is constructed well or the items ba are constructed well. Wala pa ka naka-construct og test item. No, so that's not the correct answer na nag-answer day duha ka buok. Oh. No, take note again of the question. Oy, imo paghangad. Maghangad man hinon before the test construction. Before pa sa test construction inyong option nga gipili is kuan if constructed well ba ang item. O pag ikaka-construct og item. Next option, judge the scope of content coverage. Mao ba na siya inyong tawon before you construct ay a kuan test item, the the number of topics included in your kuan test, or is it find out if the number of items is sufficient? Lagi hapon before the test construction ang pangutana. So the correct answer is to examine the objectives set for the test to find out if they are consistent with the subject matter. Now, it's somehow related to the previous item wherein each of the questions sa test should be anchored from the objectives. Mo gina siya ang kuan dapat related siya sa objective. Di ta magyam-yam og buhat og test questions nga kuan. Wala naka-focus sa learning objectives. Next item. Item analysis is undertaken for the purpose of determining the difficulty of the item and the discriminating power of the item. To ensure an adequate sampling, a teacher may prepare a what? A list of concepts to be tested. Is it the concepts that should be included? Now, if we try to measure the index of, I mean the discriminating power of each item, is it the number of objectives or perhaps the number of items? Actually, the correct answer for this item is the table of specifications. No, that's the first step that you should be doing. No, and to fill out all the informations in a table of specification to the realignment of the learning objectives to every test item. No, the performances of the takers. No, how well the class performed in this particular test item. Lahat na nang i-measure tayo na if kaning nga item ba is should be discarded because sayon ra kayo siya or this item ba should be discarded because difficult ra kayo siya para sa ilang level. No, so that's why the correct answer for this item is the table of specification. Next, how can a teacher establish the reliability test? Is it number one, repeat the same test? Number two, administer a parallel test. Number three, split the test. Number four, vary the number of items. Now, all of this are actually the things to be considered in establishing the reliability of a test, except for splitting the test. No, lisod pod og ang katunga sa test nga imong i-construct, ipatake nimo aning group 1, then ang katunga ka ipatake nimo sa group 2. No, that's not how you measure the reliability of a test. That's why it should be 1, 2, and 3. For next item, in measuring students' development in the affective domain, the hierarchy stages, according to Bloom's taxonomy, occur in this sequence. Sa man nga sequence ang sa affective domain. Is it appreciation, appreciate nila, awareness, acceptance, and valuing? We take note that in the affective domain, ang pinaka gid ana taas sa hierarchy is ang valuing. No? So therefore, all of the options nga dili last ang valuing should be eliminated like option number 3 or letter C. So mali. Mora siya. So ang pinakauna jud pud ana is ang awareness. No, of course, kailangan aware. No, the awareness. So sa atoa pa, so it's only option number 1 ang nag-start sa awareness and nag-end sa valuing. So there's no other possible answer other than this. Therefore, the correct answer is letter A. Awareness, appreciation, acceptance, and valuing. Well, just to double check, ana, ato ang ikuan ha, atong i-search, lantaw na to ang hierarchy. Mm, Ay, dili siya mao kung nakuan ka kinsa man dining. Mhm. When you should nara. So, the correct answer again is letter A or number 1. Awareness, appreciation, and valuing. Ping, ping. Next, which is the most reliable and easily used attitudinal instrument for measuring the most positive and favorable to the most negative and unfavorable views about a concept? Kanang itong kanang say tawag ano gamiton ni in identifying kung say for example agree ba ang nag-answer ani nga questionnaire or dili. Agree, strongly disagree. Say pataw sa pailaing option ano do not agree, strongly disagree. Noon sa na siya nga klase sa attitudinal instrument for measuring. No, is it a temperament survey? Unsa nang temperament survey? Wait. This is an example of di makita. A temperament survey. Hmm. Yeah, wherein they will be filling the blanks before each words. They will be scoring it, no, per section. Whereas what we are looking for, naman to? What we are looking for is on the level, no? Kung favorable ba ang nag-answer or dili siya favorable sa concept. No, you're actually pertaining to the Likert scale, which is the correct answer. Now, let's look at an example for a Likert scale. Para, hmm, so, this is an example of a Likert scale. No, but nadiri ang statement like, chocolate ice cream, chocolate ice cream is delicious. Mo agree mo strongly disagree pa ka ana mo disagree pa ka ana mo neither agree nor disagree pa ka or agree lang, no, or strongly agree. So this is again an example of a Likert scale wherein lantawon ang imuhang level of kuan. Itawagan ay favorable ba kaning statement or dili. Next, in the accreditation program being required by the CHED in assessing the quality of instruction in universities and colleges, which among the set of criteria that must be included in determining the set levels? Is it one, mission and vision of of the school, two, faculty profile, three, curriculum, and fourth, building and facilities? Now, for the information of everybody, especially those who are under my IDOC 107 class last academic year, first semester, no, you'll be able to answer na makakuha mo sa sakto nga kuan kay nagstorya man ay one of our special topics man ato was on the accreditation of higher education institutions. And it was emphasized there nga ang mission and vision, the profile of the faculty members of every colleges and departments are also going to be considered. They're going to be checked by CHED, no, the accreditors. Third is ang curriculum nga ginagamit sa eskwelahan. Next is ang buildings and facilities, the availability of all the important facilities for the teaching and learning process, including the laboratory, computer labs, the books available in the library. No, so those are important things nga lang taon sa CHED in order to kuan to identify the level of a particular higher education institution kung saan na siya nga level sa accreditation. Now, let's have an example ang IIT. Now, the highest level of accreditation is level 4 and IIT's College of Education is already in level 4. No, nakapasar sila sa CHED's accreditation or accreditation team with all of these criteria to be considered. No, that was considered. So that's why the correct answer for this item is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next, the process of democratic consultation. Lah, wait, ako sa ding isend ako akong exam. Okay. So the process of democratic consultation shall be observed in the decision-making process of appropriate levels. This principle of shared governance is provided in what Republic Act number? Now, on the democratic consultation, is it the RA 7836? Again, no, the RA 7836 is on the Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. So if it's in relation to the process of democratic consultation, this is not the correct answer. No, it should be the Republic Act 9155. But let's take a look at the RA 9155. Ano na siya? Also known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Now, how about ang 8980? An act promulgating a comprehensive policy and a national system for ECCD. So, wala lagi hapon siya relationship. How about ang 7610? Siya ito Magna Carta ba ng 7610? Nakalimot naman ko yan. Oh, no. Sa children, whether male or female, who are coercion, relation, a Republic Act related to coercion, influence of any adult. So that's why the correct answer for this is the Republic Act 9155, or the act also known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. Next, on which policy is Republic Act 4670 known as the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers focus? Kung nakafocus ang Magna Carta, is it number one, right to establish or join organizations? Mo ba na siya ang focus sa Magna Carta? Number two, Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers. Mo ba na siya yung focus sa Magna Carta? Number three, recruitment shall take place after training. Nope. Number four, to promote and improve the social and economic status of public school teachers. No, so sa Magna Carta nakabutang pud ang kuan no mga promotional ang qualifications and standards. No, so that's why the correct answer for this is option number 4 or letter D. Next item. According to the 1987 Constitution, when should religion be taught to children in public elementary and high school? When man na siya itudlo, di ba, we are also touching the affective areas or the emotional states of our students. No, that includes their spiritual kuan well-beings. No, so when man na siya nato itudlo sa atong mga estudyante in public elementary and high schools, is it during Fridays only? Na nag-answer direct tulo. Perhaps because when we were in the old curriculum, no, in the basic education curriculum of 2002, marag ang religion nga subject kay marag every Friday recreation. So I can't blame those who answered koan during Fridays. However, according to the 1987 Constitution, it should be within the regular class hours. No, sa ato pa it should be um, between 7:30 siguro. 7:30 pa mag-start ang klase. 7:30 to 4. No, 4:30. Should be in between that koan range of time. So therefore, the correct answer is number 4 or letter D, within the regular class hours. The Section 6 of the 1987 Constitution states that the government shall take steps to initiate and sustain the use of Filipino as a medium of official communication and as language of instruction. The official languages are Saman ang official languages according to the Section 6 of the 1987 Constitution. Is it Filipino and Spanish? Nung sa nga Constitution ato ang gigamit karon. Diba, the 1987 Constitution man. And it's very obvious that we are not making use of Spanish as one of our official languages. Therefore, option number 1 is not correct. Ano nag-answer ninyo Filipino and Spanish? Uy, no, mo galing English is also our second language because it's also identified as one of our official languages under the Section 6 of the 1987 Constitution. Dahil na pinag-answer direct Filipino only. Uy, sa kuan pa lang din lang, no? Sa grammatical structure pa lang sa test, ay sa statement sa itaas, no? The official languages are, no, nag-R pa yun, nag-languages pa yun, mo mong i-answer kay Filipino only. Kung Filipino only rang answer, ana, dapat ang statement yung gibutan dra, the official language is, no? So, murag, ma-answeran na siya og common sense. Aw, magali, wala po yung nag-answer niyo og Arabic. So, the correct answer is Filipino and English. Next, the Bureau of Non-Formal Education which provides quality basic education for out-of-school youth and adult learners, has been renamed. Noon sa rename daw ang Bureau of Non-Formal Education, which is ang target nila is help with out-of-school youth continue their education. Unsa man kaya na siya nga program karon under the Department of Education? Saka ang giilis nga pangalan ana, is it the alternative learning system, the informal learning system, the outside school system, or the formal education system? Obviously, na nag-answer diri Bureau of Formal Education System. Take note nga, ang gi-highlight diri sa item is basic education for out-of-school youth. Therefore, these are potential students who are not who does not belong to the formal education system. Ano kay katumaning mga adults na nga gusto pa nga wala nakatiwas og elementary, wala nakatiwas og high school. No, so therefore, for the information of everybody, no, the correct answer for this is the Bureau of Alternative Learning System. No, this is the bureau which gives or the initiative done by the Department of Education to still give chance to out of school youth and adult learners to be able to still be able to graduate from high school. Bahalag idara na sila. There's no discrimination on that. Kay the right for education is a basic human right. Next is the PRC Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers states that every teacher shall pursue studies that will improve his efficiency, shall strengthen his competence, virtues, and productivity, and enhance the prestige of the profession. This refers to A. Standards of quality education, B. Trusteeship of teachers' agenda. No, na nag-answer direct trusteeship of teachers' agenda. Now, how is it related to the code of ethics that states nga kailangan ako sa ka-teacher mag-seek jud siya og kuan professional development pa? Or is it CPE or perhaps option number 4 advancement of teachers program? Now, obviously, it should be continuing professional education program. Ano kay um like the the discussion regarding the PPST on the domain 7, the the personal growth and professional development. One that was the area nga gi-emphasize to remind professional teachers that once you enter or once you start practicing the teaching profession, dili dira nag-end yung journey to learn. No, you have to continuously seek for an additional knowledge, maybe in a form of a master's degree program, a PhD, no, and any other forms of kuan strategies, educations wherein you will be able to improve your teaching practices and competence as a professional teacher. So that's why the answer for this is CPE or Continuing Professional Education Program. Next, in order to arrive at a skills-based evaluation, now what could ensure an objective higher order thinking assessment? Is it to assess the product only? No, or three, use of scoring rubric, use self-assessment, analyze the different answers. No, so the correct answer for this is the use of scoring rubric. Now we should be making use of rubric for any skills-based evaluation. No, that's in order for our students to identify what are the things or the criteria that they should be considering in constructing their outputs or their performances. No, and like what I said in the previous rationalization, the purpose of a rubric also is to avoid biases. No, because there will be a clear set of standards which will be the basis of giving points to our students' outputs. No, dili lang ta mo hatag og score sa itong mga estudyante out of wedlock. No, out of our conscience ba kaha. Tagaan na to ni siya dako nga points kay pobre. Dako na siya dako nga points kay dato. No, that's not how you evaluate a skills-based output, no, or performance. That's also the purpose of using a scoring rubric. And for the additional information, making use of a rubric, it's also very important that we communicate it first to our student, no, so that aware sila kung what particular criteria ang ilang i-target in constructing their outputs and performances. So that's why the correct answer for this item is to use a schooling rubric. The Educational Media Center, or EMC, is a vital instrument for quality education processes. It is fully equipped to serve as what? Number one, a learning laboratory. Number two, service agency. Number three, coordinating agency. Number four, center for recreational reading. No, so these are agencies or areas that also has direct relationship with the education processes or the teaching and learning processes. Therefore, all of those that are mentioned are included and relevant sa purpose of the EMC or Educational Media Center. So therefore, the correct answer is letter A or option number one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next item. Who authored the tiered model of learning in active, iconic, and symbolic, and emphasized that we should not teach directly to the abstract level without adequate foundation of the concrete. No? Which the correct answer for this is Jerome is Broner. Now, why is it important that not we'll be able to let our students develop concrete knowledge about certain topics before we go deeper in their koan, no, their ability to critically think. No, importante man ang foundation sa idea. Ano, and from that particular idea, makalay na din sa question nga nung it came to be, nga nung mauna siya ang absolute, no, karon nga times. And again, the proponent for that is Jerome S. Bruner. Next item. Teacher B wanted her students to learn the electoral process in action. So they went on to elect the president, vice president, 12 senators, and 20 congressmen. They came up with qualifications of candidates, manner of campaigning and canvassing votes. This activity is described as a copy of real-life event and can simulate real-life situations. The students learn from A. Contrived experiences, direct experiences, purposeful experience, or demonstration. Um, na to? I see that there are three of you who answered demonstration. There's no there was no technical know-how nga gi-emphasize sa situation. No, wala man sila nag-istorya di anha og say for example, mga things that needs to be done in order to achieve a certain output. Dili man ingon ana ang klase sa situation nga gihatag. It was a simulation activity. No, unsa na siya nga klase sa experience nga ilang nakatunan? Is it a contrived experience, a direct experience? It's not a direct experience also because they're only they do not directly experience yet the electoral process. They were only simulating know how it is done. So therefore, letter B is also not the correct answer. What do we mean when we say contrived experiences, TI? The contrived experiences is an edited version of a direct experience. No? Therefore, the correct answer, ani, is contrived experience. No, kay nag-simulate man sila og real life situation nga naa pa possibility nga they will be able to experience in in the real setting. However, kuan man dili man siya ang direct, di man siya ang real experience ang ilang gibuhat. Simulate raman sila of the electoral process. No, therefore, the correct answer is contrived experiences or option number one. Next item, the use of a planetarium to show the arrangement of the planets together with their rotation and revolution around the sun is an example of a teaching strategy called. What do you mean when we say planetarium? Now let's look at what is a planetarium. Okay. This is an example of a planetarium. No? Wherein mura jud kag nasa actual kuan ba mura jud kag nasa sa tawag ano outside the planet Earth. Wherein makita gini mo mga movements sa kuan sa mga planets, the rotation, the revolution, naka na sa kag spaceship. No, that's an example of a planetarium. Murag so unsa na siya nga klase sa strategy na mura bitaw siya gi say tawag ano gi more siya ni appear as a real life situation or scenario. Mura siya mm, gi-present sa inyo ha ang actual kuan the actual movements of the planets, no, the rotation and the revolution, no, in a form of a planetarium. So mura ra gihapon siya tinuod pero dili. Charing. So what's the correct answer? It's not the use of models also. No, dili siya use of models. A planetarium example isn't a model. No, it's more on the marami tawag, you were allowed to experience firsthand no, the situation, the movements of the planets, the rotation, and the revolution. See, it's almost the same thing with saying simulation. Among the choices, it's actually the closest to what is being asked. Ano, murag say tawag ano gipakita jud ang actual possibility or ang actual close to the reality ba of the movements of the planets, the rotations and the revolution. Next, teacher E interviewed five students for their reasons for being absent twice during the week for several months. Then she showed the whole situation in a cause and effect diagram by way of a what? Na unsa nga klase sa diagram ang nag-show og cause and effect cause and effect? Is it a tree diagram? No, ang sa tree diagram I think we can actually make use of this if we relate one concept to the other. No, from a broader concept to its branches. That's how we can make use of a diagram of a tree diagram. How about a flow chart? It's a flow chart also murag we can make use of we can make use of a flow chart no if it's the information that we are trying to convey is following a step by step procedure. No, that's when we'll be using a flow chart. No, which should be done first and then the second and the third. Whereas the situation given to us is on the cause and effect diagram. So therefore, the correct answer for this is the fishbone diagram. Mm. Identify the cause and the bones of the fish will lead us to the possible consequences no, or the possible effects. So that's why the answer for this is letter A, the fishbone diagram. Next, the use of TV and film bring to the classroom live broadcasts of world events as they happen. What are the other advantages of using it? The students are provided one, exciting sights and sound, two, close up view of big events, three, most believable news source. All of these are advantages. So all of these are correct. Number one, exciting sights and sound because like I kept on telling you, the more senses nga ma-involve sa teaching and learning process, the more na nga ma-retain sa mga estudyante sa ilang long-term memory. Ano? Plus, ma-excite pa gid sila. Next is ang close-up view of big events. No, mas klaro sa ilang mindset if they can actually kuan if makita gyud nila maybe in a form of again of a video katong mga importante nga concepts or events nga imong gitulo sa ilaha. Murag ikong concretize pa nila ang ilahang previous learning, no? Mas malig-on pa siya ilahang belief. Next is on most believable news source. Of course, that the films that you should be showing sa imong mga estudyante should not promote kung ano, false informations, fake news. Those are films that should came from I mean that should present true and kuan credible ideas. So that's why the correct answer is 1, 2, and 3. Next item, using TV and films has limitations also as instructional tools. Of course, you should know that. As a teacher, which is missed by the students during the viewing. Kung sa daw ang na-miss or nakaligtaan sa mga estudyante during the viewing. Is it number one, the small screen size? What if dako ang television? No, is this still something na nakaligtaan nila? So the option number one doesn't make sense. Number two, the meaning of the lesson objective. Why? Nga nang makaligtaan man nila ang meaning of the lesson objective? No, the films nga i-show po sa teacher obviously has something to do with the learning objectives. Dili po na basta-basta magpakita lang or magpa-view lang ang teacher og films sa mga estudyante. No, if it has nothing to do with the lesson objective. So, well, so letter B is not the correct answer. Next, hands-on activities. During the viewing. No, actually the option number 4 is is also considerable. However, what if the films nga ipakita si teacher is say for example on the film relating to art, no, the film on the steps, the materials that they'll be using in making a certain instructional material. Oh, ang nakabutang lang dito kay they have to follow the steps or the procedures presented by the film or by the TV. So, still ma-involve ra gyapon ang ilang hands-on activities kay nag-follow man sila sa procedures nga present sa film. No, so sa option number 4, it's not the correct answer. It should be option number 3, the chance to interact and be creative. Of course, they'll be focusing entirely on the information presented by the film. They won't be able to consider other people's ideas. No, they don't share ideas as a group. No, they because naman sa film, no, ang information nga ilahang kwaon. So there will be no interaction unless mutubag pud og balik ang film kung imong pangutan-on. There will be interaction, di ba? So that's something na ma-miss sa mga estudyante in viewing films. Next item, as an insightful teacher, wala ginawala. Wala de. As an insightful teacher, how will you advise the parents about the far-reaching effects of media on the young minds? No, saan man nimo pag-advise sa mga parents for the students not to not sa tawag na misuse no the media. Is it to let the children choose those they enjoy? No, what if They enjoy watching koan videos that promotes violence. No, and they're only grades 1, grade 2, or 3. No, even if they enjoy watching films such as those things, the parents should not let them sa bata pa man sila, no? And they might be able to be influenced by the type of violence na makita nila sa videos nga ilang gina-watch. Next is choose their own time in viewing. Pasagdaan lang ba nato sila? Kung gusto nila gusto mo lantaw kuan films or movies? What if gusto sa mga bata mo lantaw og films 9 p.m. or 10 p.m.? No, and then pagkaugma mo eskwela pa. No, are we going to let our children, no, our kuan mga mag-watch ra gihapon og ana nga mga orasa? Next is tell them that high exposure to media has advantages. Hal, let's not be confused with the advantages that we can get in making use of media. However, ang statement magod is high exposure to media has advantages. No, it should be disadvantages because although there are benefits that we can get being exposed to media, such as communication, we can communicate to people from other countries, from other places, but too much exposure is not good. No, that's why it should be disadvantages. It goes against the first part of the statement. So the correct answer for this is option number one. We should advise the parents to choose educational TV programs to reinforce the students' learning, not to help the students learn more. That's why the correct answer is option number one. Next, in project-based multimedia learning strategy, the students learn new knowledge and basic skills. Aside from being actively engaged in the learning task, they get involved in number one, acquiring technological skills rather than content. Again, I will be reading the statement. In project-based multimedia learning strategy, the students learn new knowledge and basic skills. Aside from being actively engaged in the learning task, they get involved in making use of extended period of time allowed. No, haman nato ibutang ang multimedia learning strategy. Dianhi. If we choose these first two options, di ba wala? No, it's more or less siya nag-focus entirely on the project-based strategy, discarding or disregarding the term multimedia. So I'll proceed with the third option, learning to use the computer in organizing data. No. In organizing a given data already. No, wala na siya nag-involve og any form, any type of learning. Just for as long as you're able to organize the given data. No, wala na siya yung necessary knowledge and basic skills nga na-involve. No, in making use of this multimedia o thing. Next is on planning, designing, and producing a multimedia product for presentation. So this is the correct answer. No, a project that is done and presented using multimedia products like computers. That's why the correct answer is letter D. Next, as a teacher employing the project-based multimedia learning strategy, what are some limitations you expect from the encounter? There is a need for extending the time to use several media. The presentation of the product is not an easy task. The technology skills to produce a product may be lacking. No, again, ang question na what are some limitations you expect from the encounter? No, if mag-employ ang teacher og project-based multimedia learning strategy. Actually, all of those that I mentioned are can be considered limitations, no, in making use of a project-based multimedia learning strategy. Number one, there is a need for extending the time to use several media, no, in order to better came up with a plan in an output. No, there's a need to extend the use. Next is on the presentation of the product. Dili siya easy nga task, but because what if you are not well versed making use of media, no multimedia. Next is on the technology skills to produce a product may be lacking. No, it's almost the same thing with the previous kuan number, wherein what if you don't possess enough skill to deal with this kuan technology. So therefore, all of those are considered to be limitations. So that's why the correct answer is option number 2, letter B. Next, according to Jonathan Herbart, which of the following are the formal steps of instruction arranged in the proper sequence? Is it number 1, preparation, presentation, association, and generalization? That's the correct answer. Now you have to be prepared of the kuan, the lessons that you are going to teach. And once you are prepared, of course, it's time for you to present. You do the presentation. Then after your presentation, you associate this lesson that you just taught to your student sa ilahang personal experiences. You do contextualization, you provide examples. No, you have to make sure na maka-establish ka og connectivity or connections from the lessons to the students' lives and experiences. Next is on generalization. Now you wrap things up sa imong instruction. You visit all of the concepts nga imong gi-discuss, you summarize all of them, no? Or perhaps you ask questions regarding the things nga you just discussed. Those are the strategies in making generalization. No, and this is the correct order according to Jonathan Herbart, letter A. Next, the 19th century saw the development of state-controlled and state-supported public school system. Existing ideology was the concept of national sovereignty. Under democracy, education equips students with the principles and duties of citizenship to guarantee national stability. Such is the ideology of 1. Citizenship. No, redundant na siya no sa kuan. Unsa na siya nga ideology di ayon we are granted democracy in a form of an education. Is it progressivism, nationalism, secular education? It's actually nationalism. No, because if you notice, everything that was mentioned about democracy, no, about having a principles and duties as a citizen of the country, all of those things promotes nationalism. So the answer is letter C. Ay, next. Rousseau established a number of modern principles of teaching aimed at the natural goodness and virtue of man. Which of the following principles were his great contributions? Is it number 1, principles of growth, individualization, principles of people activity? All of these are the contributions of Rousseau. So the answer is letter A. Next item as a show increasing trend in the daily temperature from January to March. Students best present such trend to the class. Now, if if the student are tasked to show the increasing trend of the temperature, I mean the increasing temperature of the world from January to March, unsa nga klase sa nga presentation ng ilang chart? Daghan nag-answer of flowchart. Anong flowchart man? Ato galing lang tawon ang increase of temperature from January to March. January, February, and March. So therefore, ato ang lantawon ang um, temperature level sa January, average temperature level sa January, average temperature level sa February, dayon average temperature level sa March. No, kung nag-increase pa siya or nag-decrease. So unsa siya nga klase nga graph atong gamiton or chart? Dili siya flow chart. No, kay dili man ang flow atong gilantaw. No, ang level man of increase. ato nga mga months. So therefore, dili siya flowchart. No, wala siya nag-talk about steps or procedures. The first thing that you have to do, the next thing, the last. Ang map pod, makita ba nato sa map ang kuan an increase of temperature from January to March? Dili man no, it has to be nadyo'y dapat table nga buhaton or i-construct no para ma-compare the temperature level of these months. Next is drawing. Makuha ba nato ang level of increase if ato ang i-draw? How are you going to draw the temperature? No, so that's not also possible. That's why we make use of a bar graph. Now, let me show you an example of a bar graph. Bar graph. So this is, uh, let's have this as an example. Let's assume nga kaning apple nga word mo ni siya ang sa January, kaning orange ang sa March, kaning banana ay February ang sa kaning banana ang sa March. Then kaning naa sa vertical line mo ni siya ang sa kuan temperature. No, so makita nato nga 35 degrees. O ang naa sa ang average sa January. Then ang sa February kay 30. No, and sa March kay 10. So ma-visualize na to og klaro if nag-increase ba or nag-decrease ang temperature ani nga mga kuan months. No, ma-compare na to ani nga kani nga case, ani nga bar graph, nag-increase siya or nag-decrease? Nag-decrease siya. No, from 35 nahimo na lang siyang 10. No, so mo nang we make use of a bar graph instead of a flow chart. Next, a town mayor was requested to present how the different offices in the municipal hall are related to one another according to their related functions. Which one should we prepare? No. Unsa man nga klase atong buhaton? Is it a line graph? Ha? It's not a line graph. We are not also looking at the level of increase or the level of decrease no in a certain information or in a certain data. We are comparing different offices, their functions, no? So, is it a time chart? Dili po siya time chart. Kay functions na natong i-compare sa different offices of a municipal hall. How about stream flow? Dili po siya. It doesn't make sense also. So, the correct answer for this is a organizational chart. Na makita nato sa organizational chart the different offices, different departments, together with the functions of each constituents. No nga nabilong ana nga department or office. So that's why we make use of an organizational chart. Kinsa ang head ng office, kinsa ang second highest position below sa head. Ang ina na mga klase sa chart. Next, na sakit na akong ulo. In biology class, the students were asked to trace their family's closest relatives. Now, even without reading the entirety of the question, makagets na to diretso, no? Not talking about the family's closest relatives starting from their great-grandparents. No, of course, we make use of a family tree. From the great-grandparents, kinsa ilang anak, na din ito i-connect sa mga anak pag isa mong great-grandparents, kinsa na po ilang mga offspring, mga connect-connect na din ba in many generations until sa imuha. So, that's why we make use of a family tree to trace our relatives. Next, in social science, which is the best visual in identifying the prominent cities and provinces located in the different regions of the country? Unsa man nga klase sa map atong gamiton if we are to identify the prominent cities and provinces located no sa mga nagkailain-lain nga region sa atong country. Is it economic map? Unsa daw makita sa economic map? Now we'll be able to see the amount of money or Yeah, the amount of money, expenses, or expenditures per kuan provinces. Dili nato makita nga mapa. That's why the correct answer for this is the political map. No, if it's the prominent cities and provinces located in different regions lang ato ang lantawon. Next, which philosophy let's not include this ism now. Anyway, we'll be having a review with this man in preparation for that. Next is which theory states that significant skills, knowledge, and attitudes in making adjustment to the realities of life, should be systematically planned, which thing emphasizes the authority of the teachers and the value of a subject matter curriculum. It emphasizes habituation more than experience, discipline more than freedom, and favors a drill in developing skills. No, so it's the opposite of existentialism wherein we allow our students to explore. No, we allow our students to discover the purpose of their actions. No, we only stick with the traditional way of teaching. No, we only teach what are essential, which is the content knowledge. No, we teach that our we are sa tawag ano the imposed rules inside the classrooms are absolute. No, we do not give freedom to our students. So the correct answer for that is essentialism. Next, all learning should center around the child's interests and needs. The school should be pleasant place for learning. Its emphasis is on the child as the learner and not on subject matter and stress on activities and experience rather than on textbook. So it's progressivism. Anyway, it's the only major philosophy that is student centered among the choices. So it's obviously it's progressivism. Next, which interesting group of theories believes that the human being is the creator of his own essence? No, take note ha, the creator of his own essence or of his own purpose. So kana pa lang daan nga idea, be able to identify nga existentialist dyan na siya. No, existentialism dyan na siya nga belief because according sa existentialism ang good, we have to live our life first before finding its essence and not the other way around. Nga na natay purpose taan daw sa kalibutan before nato i-live atong life. Da- Dapat kuan pa will be able to gain experiences pa for us to really to for us to realize our purpose or essence in this world. So that's in an existentialist perspective. Next, the Centers for Excellence in Teacher Education in the Philippines was created by which of this Republic Act? Obviously, dili na po ni siya ang RA 7836. No, Teachers Professionalization Act man ni dili nakapalob ang mga qualifications to become a board member, no, qualifications in taking the licensure examination for teachers, conditions in the practice of the teaching profession, dili nakasulod sa 7836. But the Centers for Excellence in Teacher Education in the Philippines, nakapaloob na siya sa Republic Act 7784, which is ang letter A. Muna siya ang correct answer. Unsa na siya nga Republic Act? Unsay title ani nga Republic Act? RA 7784. O, an act to strengthen teacher education in the Philippines. No, if mao na siya ang gipangayo, then it's going to be Republic Act 7784. Next item. What are the sources of one's educational philosophy? Noon sa kaya ang choices, ay ang sources. Actually, these are the all of the options are the correct answer. It serves as a bonus. Now we consider the people and the kinds of relationship that they have in the development of their educational philosophy. Now next is ang schools and teachers, as well as the socio-cultural environment. Because those are the important areas that are even were highlighted di ay sa PPST also. No? So obviously, those are the areas po nga na-anchor ang inyong educational philosophy. Next item. The cycle in curriculum planning constitutes three fundamental elements. First concern are the goals and objectives, followed by the body of learning experiences and resources or the methodologies, and ends with unsa tong ginabuhat, no, after the actual body of learning sa kuan sa klase. Unsa tong buhaton in order to make sure kung na-attain ba sa mga estudyante ang learning objective. Of course, the assessment outcomes, no? By providing assessment tools, assessment tests. Then makita din sa atos lang mga scores if they were able to indeed reach the intended learning outcome for the lesson. That's why the correct answer is letter C. Next item. Spartan education provides much attention and time for the art of war and the training of soldier citizens. Hence, the Spartan curricula consisted of military exercises and services for the state. Athenian education, on the other hand, stressed individual excellence, hence aimed to provide what? A moral training, emphasize virtues to develop personality. Yes, this is the correct answer. Kay, take note ha nga, it stresses on the individual excellence. Now, what are the factors involved in achieving individual excellence? They should be moral training. No, they should be corrected on acting appropriately. No, they should be taught about the things that are morally right, things that are wrong. And since it's on individual excellence, they should also be taught about virtues, about honor and respect. And next is on to develop personality. No, so those are the correct answer. Those are the focus of the Athenian education. Now, take note has stressed individual excellence. Then, ang second option kay learners with training in harsh discipline. So it does not jive well with the statement. Now, next is full-rounded development to fight as soldiers. Now, if we are pertaining to the Spartan education, this is the correct answer. However, the Spartan education is being compared with those of the Athenian. No, and the latter actually focuses on individual excellence. So this is not the correct answer. Control of training of children. No, and do we think na makadevelop a good personality ang mga estudyante if there's a control of their training, grabe ka authoritarian? No, that's not what is being stressed by the Athenian education. So the correct answer is letter A. Comenius, a prominent sense realist, believed that the aim of education is to know all things, to do all things, and to say all things. He favored a democratic education and the use of the vernacular, no, or their native language, in education. He believes that the best agency for education is the what? Unsa nga agency? No, or organization perhaps ang kuan maka best provide og education. Is it textbook? May nag-answer og textbook. Kuya, it's actually school. No, of course it's school. This it's not government. No, it's not the master. It's the school. Wherein there's wherein the lessons are properly planned and executed. Next, during the age of naturalism, the duty of parents in the education of the child was emphasized. Parents should assist in the unfolding of the child to be free to develop according to his own natural impulses, free from the artificialities of human society. This famous naturalist is Rousseau. Number one, letter A. Next, Friedrich Froebel strongly believed that the aim of education was the development of the child. The teacher should be a moral and cultural model worthy of the child's love and trust. Froebel is known for his kinsa maning idea or kinsa mang father of kindergarten. It's Froebel. So the answer for this is kindergarten. Ano, si Froebel, if you are going to be asked in relation to the proponent of kindergarten, it should be Froebel, no? Froebel. Next, he is known for his philosophy of pragmatism and synthesis of Darwin's theory of evolution. He believed that children were socially active human beings and they went to explore their environment. He favored democratic education, who is referred to, hey, is it Pestalozzi, Jonathan Herbart, John Dewey, or Thorndike? It's John Dewey. If it's related to allowing the students or the child explore his or her environment, then the proponent for that is going to be John Dewey. Next, a negative discrimination index means, ang saibot pa sabot when we say negative discrimination index. Is it more from the upper group answered the test correctly? For option number two, this is actually the positive discrimination index, which is the opposite of what we're looking for. Number three, or option number three, the test item could not discriminate between the upper and the lower group. Therefore, we're pertaining to a non-discriminatory index. But we're looking for negative discrimination. So it's not also the correct answer. Number four, the test item has low reliability. Hmm. Kaya po ang concern ng sa reliability. No, so therefore, number four is also excluded. Because the correct answer is that negative discrimination index means that more from the lower group answered the test item correctly. No, kinsa man yung mga nasa lower group. No, these are the students nga gagmay og score sa totality of the test. No, sila ang nabilong sa lower group. No, then makita ni mga if negative discrimination index siya, kuan siya mura siya negative discrimination index. Identify nimo siya as negative discrimination index if majority of the students nga nakakuha ani nga particular test item are students who belong to the lower group, no, or students who are uh, gagmay og kuha sa totality of the test. Mo na siya ambot pasabot sa negative discrimination index. Unsa may ambot pasabot ana, no? Nga dili kasaligan nga test item. Sa kaya ilang gibuhat. And when we say positive discrimination index pod, no, murag taas po siya reliability because kay mga the upper group man ang mas daghag naka-answer ana nga particular item. No, if positive yung discrimination index. Next, What can be said of student performance in a positively skewed score distribution? Now, if you watch the previous, say tawag ana, rationalization video, maka-answer na mo ani nga item. Kung sa rebot pasabot yun say positively skewed score distribution. Now, if it's positively skewed, bot pasabot ana, most of the students perform poorly. Now, remember the strategy nga akong gitudlo? We make use of our right hand pointing to the left. Ngayon, ana, no, ang kaning sa thumb nagrepresent sa kung asa siya nag-point. Nagrepresent siya sa score sa majority of the students. No, so if nag-point siya sa left, so then put pasabot ana this is a negatively skewed score distribution. Okay, if you take note of the Cartesian plane, nag-point siya if na siya sa left, nag-equal siya sa negative values. Di ba? Mm. So if it's a negatively skewed distribution, dagko og score ang mga bata. Therefore, nindot ilang performance sa test. However, if it's the other way around, if nag-point siya sa kuan, sa tawag na, sa positive sides, no, ang iyang skewedness or ang iyahang kuan, score distribution, put pasabot ana, most students perform poorly. No, if positively skewed score distribution, most students perform poorly. You have to take note of that. If it's positively skewed, most students perform poorly. No, ana ra na siyang strategy, ana ug ana. So if you take note, if nag-point siya sa positive part of the Cartesian plane or positively skewed, no, ang thumb kay nag-point paubos, which means nagagmay og score ang mga estudyante. And again, that could be interpreted as most students perform poorly. Kay if it's skewedness, no, we are trying to identify which end ang mas daghan ang kuan mga estudyante. Is it the end wherein gagmay og scores or is it the end nga daghan og tag-as og score? So again, if it's a positively skewed score distribution, we can interpret it as most students perform poorly. Okay? A teacher would use a standardized test in order to A. Serve as a final examination. Wala na siya ang purpose sa standardized test. Um, 2. Compare her students to national norms. 3. Engage in easy scoring. 4. Serve as a unit test. So the answer for this is to compare her students to national norms. Ano, okay, if it's a standardized test, it is a kind of test that is made or huh? That is made no in relation to the set norm for the kuan national. So that's why the correct answer is letter B or option number 2. Next, the main purpose in administering a pre-test and a post-test to students is to accustom the students in frequent testing, no, para maanad ato ang mga estudyante sa sige natong pagpa-test. Number 2, keep adequate records, no, para natay records for hindi sa lang performances. But keep in mind nga formative assessments are recorded, but not um, should be included in grading. Should not be included in grading. Next is on measure the value of the material used. Is that the purpose of administering a pre-test in the post-test? So the correct answer is option number 4, measure gains in learning. No, we administer pre-tests to identify the prior or the prior knowledge or the schema of our students, and then we make use of a post-test to identify their levels of learning. So that's why the correct answer is option number 4. Next item. A number of test items in a test are said to be non-discriminating. Sa mga ito makonclude when we say non-discriminating, what conclusions can be drawn? Is it number 1, teaching or learning was very good? Ha? Take note how we are not pertaining to the methodologies or the teaching practice done by the teacher. Now we are pertaining to the result of that test, no? Ang score sa mga estudyante peer test item. So therefore, number 1, halata kay sa nga tanan nga wala siya appeal. No, we're pertaining to test items man dili man sa teaching practices. No, sa teacher. So what siya appeal obviously. Number 2, the item is so easy that anyone could get it right, which is correct if it's non-discriminating. And then what can we do if it's identified as an item which is too easy? So matong wahaton ana if it's non-discriminating, we discard the test item. Ato siyang ilisan tang tangon. Kay if it's too easy, then but pasabot, it will not cater kuan critical thinking among the students kaysa yun na naman kay siya. Mao na siyang gi-consider pa na siya as non-discriminating or non-discriminating item. Number 3, the item is so difficult that nobody could get it. So there are two things that we should consider basta moingon taog non-discriminating ang item. Non-discriminating siya if it is too easy and or if it is too difficult, no? And isa ra jud ang kapadulngan ana if both should be discarded. No, di na siya pwede i-include. It should be discriminating. Dapat discriminating ang test item. That's why the correct answer is number 1 or letter A, 2 and 3. Next, the test item has difficulty index of 51 and a discriminating index of 25. What should the teacher do? Hmm. Take note if the closer it is to 1, no, the more it is to be discarded, no? And ang given diri kay 0.51 man yang difficulty in index. Na discriminating index po of kay 25. So may buhaton. No, should we make this item a bonus 1? Lantaw sa nato ang table about discrimination index. So nara, ahaman to. If it's less than 0.15, ang interpretation na is poor, no? Which means nga i-revise siya or discard. No kay kuan basig easy ra kayo ang test item. Next is if ang kuan pod niya if it's less than 0.15 and the given data that we have is 0.51 and 0.25. So this item should be retained. No kay dili man siya below 0.15. So okay siya. So it should be retained. No na nag-answer diri make it a bonus item. Pwede din ha. Ano, although ginabuhat pa na most of the teachers, but it's not correct in a standardized test. You have to be considerate of the discriminating and the index of difficulty. Tip to revise the item po daily. No? What are the conditions the I that we have to use para i-revise ang item? No, if it's too easy again or if it's too difficult. ang difficulty and index po nga makita nato in order for us to identify whether an item is very easy is if it's kuan greater than or equal to 61. No, makita nato nga easy kaysa nga tanan ang test. If it's too difficult po, no, makita po nato nga less than or equal to 30 ang iyang difficulty index. But either way, the action that should be done by the teacher ani nga mga item, dapat iyang i-revise or i-discard tanang nga test item. So wala jud sa option ning pagbuhat ana nga particular item as a bonus ha. Basig moabot na lang mo compre o licensure examination for teachers then naay option dadto nga make it a bonus mao ra gyapon yung pilion. Wala jud na di gyud na mahitabo ng make it a bonus in a standardized test. Next, the difficulty index of a test item is 1. This means that the test is saman very easy. No, if it's negative 1 po, it's very difficult. So that's why this is sakita sa akong likod eh. Up. Okay. Dili day necessarily nga maabot patag negative 1 no. 0.25 lang di ay. If it's 0.25 ang iyahang difficulty index, then we can classify it as difficult. And so therefore, the appropriate action we should be doing with it is that we should also revise or discard that item. Also, what should be considered? It should be moderate no ang difficulty index para ato siyang i-retain. It should be between 0.25 to 0.75. Okay? So that's why for the test item nga 1, no, so we can identify this as very easy. Next, if the computed range is low, this means that 1, the difference between the highest and the lowest score is low. Of course, buta sa buta na imuhamang ilang taon ang range from someone who got the correct answer who got a high score from those who is the lowest. So if nikuha ni ilang taon nimo sa range kay gamay ra siya og range but pasabot ana ang difference nila is low. No, wala dili ra kayo lagyo ang ilang performance according to the data. So the correct answer is letter A. Next, which group of scores is most varied? The group with is it 0.90 standard deviation? No, what can we unsa dapat pasawat mi sa standard deviation in um in identifying the dispersity of the student scores. No, the closer it is to 1, the more dispersed the scores are. The more nga mas taas ang range silang scores ba, the more nga mas taas o diversity ang ilahang scores. So from the choices, unsa man ang closest sa 1 nga standard deviation. So it's 0.90. Therefore, from among the choices, it's 0.90 ang nag-show og ay uh, v- variety, no? Ang itawag ano dispersity sa mga scores. So it should be 0.90. So balik na pud ta sa next item, the percentile rank of 72. And again, No kaning 72 nga gimin diri. This is the number I am is the rating of si tawag ano, the percentage of the population sa usa ka klase wherein nalabuan nimo ang ilahang score. Okay? Mo the correct answer for this is number one. The student's score is higher than 72% of all students who took the test. No, sa ato pa ang kaninga particular student labaw iyang score sa 72% of the other students. No, so sa ato pa ang 28% ani either nakakuha og the same score sa iyaha or more than sa score nga nakuha niya. So that's mo na ibut pasabot sa percentile rank of 72. So naman puding ni pop up lagot lagi ko ani ay. Sira ba jud mawala? Yati maulaw ta aning ning pop up ay makasungod. Nanilag na siya. Next item. What is the mean of the score distribution? So how are we going to take the mean DI? No, so we will be adding all of these values. No, we'll be adding all of these values and then we divide it with n. No, or kung pila ni sila kabuok tanan. No, muna na bitaw ta nagkuha og average. No, that's how we get the mean of this score distribution. So if you are going to add all of this and then you divide it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we will get 29.55 as our mean. So the answer is letter B. What is the median of the following scores? Ang median na po din. How are we going to get the median? No, are we going to get the median diretso na ang nga data or are we going to arrange pa lang i-arrange pa ni nato? No, so ang median, no, the value in between no all of this score distribution. But in order for us to get the value in between, we have to arrange this first from the lowest to the highest value or from the lowest to the highest score. No, and if we're going to do that, we'll be able to get 38. No, 38. And again, in getting the median also, we will count the same value as 1. Say for example sa 40, 1 ra gyapon natong pag-ihap ana niya. So the arrangement for this would be 46 ay 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 40, 41, 42, and 45. So the median for that would be 38. Next item. A portfolio assessment requires a presentation of a collection of students' work. What ba a collection of students' work? For which purpose or purposes is it created? Is it number one to show growth? No, because yes, it's to show growth also because that's one of the reasons why portfolio assessment came into existence in the first place. For us to evaluate the growth of our student for the entirety of the academic year. No, makita man nato na lagi yun sa nila pag-improve sa learning. Next is on to showcase current abilities. By including their best outputs. No, next is on to evaluate cumulative achievement. The totality of their achievements, their performances. So the answer for that is letter A or number one for the first option. One, two, and three. Next, a teacher is following the average grading system. In four grading periods, a student obtained 80, 82, 84, and 85. What is her average? Saka yung average niya. Mm. So how do we get the average? Of course, we also add this and we divide it with the total number um, or with the totality of all of these grades. There are four. No, so 80 plus 82 plus 84 plus 85 divided by 4, we will get 82.75 as the average. So that's why that's the correct answer. The next item, teacher M was observed by her subject coordinator to be using most often the question and answer approach. Now, this method was popularized by who? Is it Max Berliner Solomon? The answer for this is Socrates. No. In his koan. Sa tawag ano eh. Art of Questioning. Next, what does a skewed score distribution mean? Na natay positively skewed, natay negatively skewed, but unsa gid ang pasabuton may say skewed score distribution mean? What pasabot ana the scores are more concentrated at one end or the other end. Sa to pa, if it's in the upper group or the group wherein na ay mga estudyante nga nakakuha og scores nga dagko, mas daghan dito ba sa upper group compare sa lower group. Or it could also be the other way around. No nga mas daghan og estudyante nga dagkog scores, mas daghan og estudyante sa lower group compare sa upper group, no? No, na what can we associate if it's mas daghan og estudyante nga nabilong sa lower group? Both pasabutan na majority of the class of the students kay gagmay og score sa test nga gihatag. So that's why the correct answer for this, if we say it is skewed, no, but pasabot scores are concentrated more at one end or the other end of the normal curve. And then mosunod ang positively and negatively skewed. Next, how many percent of the cases fall between -1 and +2 standard deviation units from the mean? Nagikan man sa mean. Kaya ang mean would be somewhat the average of the score distribution. No, so therefore, it should be between the -1 and the +1 standard deviation value. No, and if it's the mean or the average, therefore, the kanpod og number of students whose scores fall between ani nga range no, sa table. No, mga close pod sa average or sa mean sa score distribution. So that's why it should be 68%. No, you can make use of your assessment lessons before to further justify this one, but this is a little bit of a complicated or complex topic in relation to assessment manggod. So if we're going to dig deeper with this pa, dako na kay tag time nga ma-consume kay dako kani siya areas pod of explanation. So the correct answer is 68%, dili 95%. Now take note that -1 and +1 standard deviation units from the mean. No? So dili siya 95%, dili po siya 99, it's 68 or 69 to 70%. Next, an examinee whose scores is within X plus 1 SD believes to which of the following groups? No, has siya. If it's positive standard deviation, is it below average? No? Or above average? If it's -1 SD, The answer for this is below average. But if it's positive standard deviation, kumbaga, lapas sa mean or sa average of the score distribution, then it should be above average ang interpretation. No? If it's average, majority of you answered average, then the ST should be 0. No? Because na-fall siya in between sa mean of the score distribution. So that's not the correct answer. It should be above average. Plus 1 ay positive 1 standard deviation man. Next, one interesting instructional visual is Edgar's cone of experience. Now, visualizing the core, which represents his theory on the importance of sensory experiences. Now, what are the bottom and at the top of the cone? No, ito na yung i-search biyang Edgar's cone of experience for us to really identify unsa ang nasa bottom o unsa ang nasa top sa cone. Ay, kapoy agyaw-yaw na niya. So, ang nasa bottom sa cones koan, tawag ana, cone of learning experiences is ang direct or purposeful experiences. Ang nasa taas would be the abstract. No? So, asa man dira ang option or the verbal symbols. So, it's not the contrived experiences ang nasa bottom man. So, obviously, option number 2 is incorrect. Dili po demonstration. Demonstration belongs to how ikapila nga level 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth, no, sa cone. So, therefore, dili po ni siya mao. How about the dramatized experience? Dili ra gihapon mao. Nakasya sa ikatulo. So therefore, the correct answer for this is option number 1. Direct purposeful experience, and then the end would be the verbal symbols. Last few items. Edgar Dale's cone of experience implies that first-hand experiences is the foundation of the student's learning. This means that we must start with the concrete and progress to the abstract. That's according to Edgar Dale's cone of experiences. That's why it always starts with direct purposeful experiences because those are concrete, no, if it was experienced directly. So that's why the correct answer for this item is letter B or option number 2. Ay, dugay mo ba? Ay, next item. Robert Gain, like Edgar Dale, specified 9 different levels of learning. He stressed that different internal and external conditions are needed for each type of learning. Likewise, those levels must be sequenced or arranged in the proper order. Gain's theory is referred to as what are those theories? Kato na 9 different levels of learning. No, are those the categories of learning, the instructional events, the designing instruction? Take note ha nga, ang statement pa lang daan, nag-mention na siya og 9 different levels of learning. So it has something to do with taxonomy, no hierarchy, more conditions. And none of the options seem to jive well with that statement of 9 different levels of learning, except for the conditions of learning. Now, which is the correct answer? Letter D. Next, last item, finally. Theorists believe that learners should be allowed to discover principles through their own explorations rather than direct instruction by the teachers. This view is called koan. The correct answer is individual constructivism. Okay, they should be, in order for them to develop their own principles, they'll be exploring their environment on their own, no, without the help of any possible social interactions. no, without the help of other peers or other expert individuals. So we can also we shouldn't make use of social constructivism as our answer for this item. No, it should be individual constructivism. Each learner will be exploring, will be developing their own principles. No, not through direct instructions. That's why the correct answer for this is individual constructivism. So this concludes our rationalization for this pre-board examination. So again, we'll be having a comprehensive exam in our pre-boards 4 and 5. And all of these items will be included again ato. No, and if you happen to not pass those comprehensive exams, but pasabot ana, wala na magipang lantaw ang mga rationalization video. And again, like what I said sa previous rationalizations, nga if wala jud ka nakapasar in any of the pre-boards, dili ko mo magic na if the total computation of your grade falls below 75%. Sa matong ma-interpret na. Now we can simply interpret that as a failed rating. And so therefore, you will be receiving 5. You will not receive drop. You will not be receiving drop. You'll receive 5, which means you will have to enroll with this subject. So that's it. That concludes our rationalization video for this pre-board. And another reminder, the next pre-board will be on Friday. Na siya nga pizza. Will be on Friday, November 12 at exactly 1 p.m. 1 p.m. to 4. No, 1 to 4 p.m. ang exam because it's going to be another 100 item examination. Um, so that's it. Thank you for watching. If ever may galing nga nakaabot mo ani nga part sa rationalization video. Congrats. Bye.